Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my avatar grove. It's a old growth forest of Thuja occidentalis. Today I'll be doing a bit of an experiment. I want the tops of these trees to match the slope of the terrain. So as the hill goes up, the trees will get taller in the back. So I'm going to try that out and see how it looks. First, I'm going to take you back in time. It rained all day yesterday, so I couldn't get any work done on the plant room. But I'll take you back in time and I'll show you the progress up until then. Here's an update to the plant room. It's making good progress once again. I worked on the corner down here. So I got a beam on the inside and then I capped the outside. So this end was rotted, so I cut it away. Then I sistered a new piece in behind and then screwed this cover plate in the front. So it's doubled up now, so it should be really good and strong. And I'm all ready now to put in the plywood floor. That's the next operation. I had to make a patch in here that was rotted out in the one corner. So I cut that out and fitted a new piece in. And now I'm ready to slide my big section of plywood in. It's kind of tongue and groove into the old piece there. Yeah, so there'll be one 8-foot piece which kind of comes up to about here, and then there'll be another piece that comes all the way down to here. So yeah, so that's next. I'll actually be getting a floor instead of having holes down to the basement. Here's my piece of plywood here that I'm going to put in. So I'll be cutting off a strip along here to then go into the floor here to replace all that section that was rotted away. While we're doing updates, I have something I want to show you in the greenhouse. So let's head out there now. What I want to show you is that my yellow hibiscus is in bloom. So let's go in and have a look. Here it is. It looks beautiful. So it's got 3 flowers that opened up today. There's one way over there. And then there's 2 flowers that were open yesterday, here and here. And they're pretty well done. They'll probably fall off. Yeah. So they're done. And this one will be done. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At least 8 new buds forming on it, so it'll be flowering for a while. So it's adapted to its new pot and new soil very nicely. And down there you can see the little bunnies. Those are the bunnies Tom sent me, and they seem very happy underneath the flowers. I had a really busy day yesterday. I had Jay from Bonsai Jay come down and we made a video. And we went to the dump and got a truckload of wood chips. And he brought me down the little tree that Jared from Jarhead Bonsai sent me in the mail. And I'll show you that now. The tree he sent me was a Delonix, and I've put it on the bench here. It gets a lot of sun here. It's in the greenhouse. And it was looking a little not so healthy when I got it. A lot of the leaves were turning yellow. You can see a lot of leaves have fallen off. However, you know, this branch or leaf cluster is doing really well, and there's new growth coming in the center. So I'm quite sure that the tree will survive. It just needs to recover after its week of being shut up in a box and being shipped all over the United States and Canada. So it made it safely, and I think it just needs to adjust and get used to the new environment. And once it gets healthy again, then I'll repot it into bonsai soil and do some root pruning and get it underway as a bonsai. I want to thank Jared, Laura, and Franny for sending me this little tree in the mail. It's really nice. And I'll always think of you guys when I'm, taking care of it and watering it. So thanks a lot. There's another update I want to show you, and that's my Princess Earrings bonsai. And you can see it has a flower today. And this will probably be the last flower of the season. So really nice. And The previous flowers have turned to seed pods, and I'll show you those. They are right here. Let's go around here and have a look at them. So here they are here. You can see there's a cluster of kind of upright bean-like seed pods. And there's one here. And there's 3 or 4 down on this branch. And there's a couple over here. So a lot of energy is going into making those seeds. So it's not really growing much, you know, as a bonsai. But I do want to develop these seeds. And hopefully I can get some viable seeds off them and, you know, plant some new Princess Earrings bonsai. My red hibiscus is having a rest day today. It had some flowers earlier, but they've fallen off. And I guess the next one will be this one. And there's one over here that's showing some red. So, oh, and there's one here too. So maybe I'll get 3 flowers come out tomorrow or the next day. Oh wait, there is a flower over here. Oh, there's one here. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Almost didn't notice it. Ah, that's nice. So, lots of flowers today in the bonsai zone. I've got my 2 umbrella-shaped canopy trees on display in the studio here. They're looking really good. It's really filling in nicely. I've still got some separation between my pads, but you can see all the new fine growth coming in. Looking really good. And same with the ficus here. There's a lot of new smaller leaves coming in now. Starting to fill the canopy out once again. And someday I'll be doing the same operation on this tree. Separating it into kind of clouds or pads to break up kind of that dome-shaped canopy. But it's not developed enough yet to do that. Here's an update at the end of the day. I got my plywood floor in here. It's looking good. Yeah, so that's fixed. I'm starting on this one. I got it all cleared away in here. I've still got to dig out some of the old plywood underneath that wall there so I can slide the new stuff in. And that'll go right across over these holes near the steps here. And then the next thing to go in is the 4x4 post here, which will go on top of the plywood here. So I'll cut off all this rod at the bottom of this beams, fit the 4x4 post in there, and then everything will be nice and solid. So yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a floor back in here now. So that's the end. So tomorrow, if it doesn't rain, I'm hoping to get the plywood in over here and maybe even this 4x4 post horizontally across the front here, if all goes well. Well, it did rain. We had a huge thunderstorm at 2 in the morning. So I was up from about 2 to 4 emptying buckets of water in the plant room because it's only got half a roof. And it's still raining today, so I thought, even though it's kind of drizzling out today and it's a little cold and miserable, I thought I'd work on my Avatar Grove. I repotted my Avatar Grove into this large mica pot, and I increased the slope on the hill, and I pruned it up in kind of late spring, and now I've just let it grow and it's very overgrown now. And I'm thinking of changing the styling a bit. And I've started, you know, working towards that, where the terrain slopes upwards, the hillside, and then I also want the top of the trees to go upwards too. So my tallest trees are in the back and the shorter ones at the front. And I want my main cathedral style tree to stick up over top of all the other trees. So this will be the tallest tree in the forest, and everything else will come on a slant following the train of the hill upwards, but it'll always remain shorter than the main tree. That's my intent for today, is to get that styling underway. I'm looking at the forest from the front view now, and I've always kind of had this, you know, triangular shape, this overall triangular shape to the silhouette of the forest. And it kind of, the hill kind of comes up to a triangular shape. It's a little more uneven. And I kind of I'm not sure I like that, kind of, you know, echoing the profile of the forest to the hill. I've got to look at it and decide if I like that or not. It's not bad, you know, that way I would have the top of the trees, they echo the terrain looking from the front view and also looking from the side view. So it may be the logical thing to do on this forest planting. I'll have to think about it. I'm gonna study the forest from the front. With it in this studio setting, it's got a black background. I can stand way back and look at the forest from, like, you know, 3 meters away and get a good view of it. And it really helps you kind of, you know, I can put my hand over top of the profile of the forest and I can adjust things and see what it would look like with some different styling ideas. So that's my first step. I'm just going to stand back and look at the forest and try and decide where I need to go next with it. It started raining again and now it's let up so I can get back to work on this forest. So I'm looking at it from the side view, and this summer I grew it with the sun mainly facing this direction, so you can see the growth at the back is really good compared to the growth at the front, which is more sparse. So I've got to look at my highest trees at the back, which I would say generally the height of the trees at the back here are about here. So these are too high, and I can kind of prune these back ones to be a little more even, I think, or to kind of follow that terrain. So maybe my highest point should be right here, and then everything should be tapering off from this highest point to kind of create that triangular silhouette. So I'll start with there. I'll start, you know, this is my highest tree, so I'll start pruning these down in size just a little bit in height. All right, here I go. So this tree is this height. This one's just a little bit less. So I want this next one probably down to here. So I'll take that top off. I'll need to shorten these branches up in the apex here. And I'll just take a little bit off and kind of gradually work the forest in. There's some long branches here I can take back. The next tree is over here, and I want it to follow the terrain, so it's going to be coming down. So I'll make the apex of that tree right here, like that. And then on this other side, this is my highest point, so I've got to reduce the height of these trees. And there seems to be a lot coming off the one apex here. Yeah, a lot of vigorous growth on it. So there's 2 branches here, if you can see them in there, and I'll have to prune the one off. Here's a closer look at those branches. The trunk comes up and divides into 2. This one's more upright, and this one goes to the back more. So I'm going to prune the rear one off, like that, taking that off. And then I can reduce this back one down in height. So, and I think I'm going to take it right back to here, taking that top off. Yeah, so just slowly work the trees back a little bit at a time, and the forest will kind of reveal itself. You'll start to see the individual trees instead of just a mass of foliage. The profile of the forest is getting better, but I still have some long shoots coming out here that needs reducing back, like that, like that, and one here I can take back to here. I want to kind of define the apex of each tree. Instead of having them big sprawling branches coming out the apex, I want to get that conical shape back to them. So I'm just taking branches back, always keeping some nice healthy green foliage on them. Sure smells nice when you're pruning these trees. They just smell beautiful. Some long branches out the back here. I don't want the forest getting too far away from the edge of the pot at the back. I want it, you know, a bit of overhang, but not a whole lot. I like to scissor prune all these cedar trees first, and then you come in and refine the branches by just kind of pinching the tips and making them more compact. So a combination of scissor pruning and pinching is the ideal way to keep your cedars in good shape. So you can see from the side view now, the back is getting a little flatter. It's not sticking out so much anymore. And I don't want a wall at the back, I want it tapered in so these lower branches get light and also the upper ones. So, you know, as I said, trying to get a conical shape to each of the trees. I've also got some trees sticking out at the front here. They're getting too far away from the pot, so I'll want to keep those more compact. So I'm going to look for my straightest lines here. I'm going to take this right back to here and here. So again, from the front view, I want to follow that terrain. So my highest trees are back here and they've got to kind of slope off. So this one is too high. So I'll prune that one back at least to here, and maybe I'll go further as I look at the planting more. This forest put on a lot of good growth this year. I was really happy with it. From the front view, you can see the profile is still quite undefined. It's quite shaggy looking still, so I'll work on reducing all these trees to get them tidied up. I'm reducing a lot of the branches that are pointing in towards the central tree. So trying to give each tree its little space of sunlight when viewed from above. So I don't want the branches of one tree interfering with the other tree, like crisscrossing and creating a really dense canopy. I want each tree to look like a separate tree when you view down from above, to see each round tree shape, separate trees, not all mixed together in one big ball of foliage. So I've got to get all the trees compact, especially at the apex where you want them tighter, more of that triangular form, and that's to imitate more of a younger cedar. And then the old growth cedar here will have that upright cathedral style to it. There's not a lot of growing left to do this season. We've got maybe a month of growing left, and that'll be about it. So I'm kind of setting the trees up for next year, getting them pruned compact, making sure all the branches are getting light so they don't die off. Because cedars, you know, if branches aren't getting light, they'll shed the branches in favor of ones that are getting light. So you've got to keep them pruned fairly compact. It's okay to let them grow to a certain extent, but you don't want them, you know, growing unrestricted for many, many years, or you'll end up with, I don't know, wild looking tree. Maybe not the shape you want. I find with these forests, you just work on one tree at a time. Take your time, and eventually you get them sorted out. I've got a little tree in here that's kind of not getting any light. You can see the main tree is blocking the light getting to it, and this tree over here is blocking the light, so it's kind of in the dark. If I left that, I think that tree would probably get weak and die. So in order to give it light, I've got to thin the main tree up here. That's the only spot of light it can get. It's also a good idea to kind of figure out what is attached to each tree. So there's all the foliage on that tree. So you can see, here's the foliage on this tree down here. Just so you're not cutting off branches that you think are attached to this tree, but they're attached to a different one. You want to make sure you get the trees isolated. You can see this tree here is starting to shadow out the trees underneath it. So yeah, it's all related. You've got to keep each tree in the sun. I'm taking a look at the front of the forest now, And one thing that I found looks pleasing in a forest is not to bring the foliage right to the edge of the pot, is to have your trees inset a bit to give them a little bit of room. And you can kind of see that on the left-hand side here. There's a little bit of space. There's the edge of the pot, and then a bit of a hill, and then the first tree is inset a bit. And I like that. I'm going to bring the foliage in on this side more, so it's not right, you know, even with the edge of the pot or overhanging it. And I find that gives the pot more of a presence, like it's a firm planting and everything's nicely contained in the container. If you have, you know, the trees right to the edge and it just looks like it's too jam-packed and the pot starts to lose its significance. So I think I'm really going to try on this right-hand side over here to reduce that foliage in, and also on the left-hand side to give the, I guess, you know, this triangular form, to include the pot kind of in the composition. Oh, it just went out of focus. Yeah, to include the pot as part of the triangular composition, not as something hanging out on the bottom, if that makes any sense. Some of the trees on the right-hand side, like this one, these are new seedlings that I planted. They were grown from seed. You can see they're getting quite tall and they're becoming part of the planting, and it's nice to see that a seedling is becoming part of the forest. So I'm going to prune it back now. And I think this is its first pruning ever, which is kind of exciting. Kind of a rocket branch here, I think. I'm going to prune it back like that. And one back. So its first pruning for this little seedling is a good one. Getting it more compact. There it is. So you can see it's got more of a tree-like form. One branch I missed back there. There. It's got a tree-like form. Now I just have to make sure it's not getting shaded out by these other trees. Here's a branch I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 branches kind of coming from the one spot. So I've got to pick my best flowing branches. Like that. And I think I'll get rid of this one. I've got these 2 trees pruned up now, so you can see that one and the little seedling here. So they got their own space. I could maybe prune this one back just a little bit more. Just giving a little more light to that seedling there. Yeah, so on to the next tree now, which will be this one here. On this tree, I have a fairly vigorous large branch that grows in towards the main tree, so I don't want that. If I have any vigorous branches, I want them kind of fanning out from the center of the forest, so that is going to be pruned either right off or quite short. And I have another branch kind of coming out the front, so I think I'm going to take that one right off, right to the base. So here I go, like that. So yeah, a pretty vigorous branch. That clears up a lot of light in this section of the forest. And then I'll prune this branch that's coming out the front. I'll prune that back also. It is looking very vigorous. Always looking to divide one branch into 2. Yeah, that's got that branch pruned up quite nicely now. So I still have a lot of branches that are kind of interfering with the main tree here. So I'm just shortening those. Always picking my best branches to keep, pruning away the ones that aren't so nice, that don't flow in a good direction. So I've kind of got, I'm up to the apex of this other tree. I'll just prune this off shorter. And I've got multiple apexes here, so I just want to keep the best one, which is this one right here. So I'll get rid of All the others are shortening them a lot. It's getting there. Still has some long branches out the back here, which will need to be pruned back. So again, trying to get that conical form to each tree. That is definitely lightening up the forest. I can see more light hitting the moss already, which will help keep that green. This is a kind of a shade moss, but it doesn't like too much shade. All right, let's tackle the left side now. Because there was no shows this year, I let the trees grow this summer, and instead of keeping them pruned, because I wanted to grow them in height. A lot of them were, like that one was just a seedling. So I wanted a lot of stuff to happen. You know, a lot of growth, vertical growth on them. And, you know, it's always a trade-off between shape and growth. But I took advantage. When there's no shows, you grow your trees. And then, you know, if there's a show coming up, then you think about right from spring keeping them in good shape for the show. Which, you know, when you keep a tree in good shape for a show, it usually means you're keeping it pruned and not allowing it to grow, so the vigor decreases on the tree, which isn't always a good thing. It never is a good thing, in fact. This type of operation, you can do it over several days too. Tackle a few trees each day, because it's hard to devote enough time all at once to do the entire forest. Things like sleep and eating get in your way. A lot of people ask me, you know, what's the best way to develop a forest? Do I grow all my trees in separate pots, get them all how I want them, and then combine them into the forest? Or do I plant young seedlings or young trees and then grow the forest and kind of grow all the trees together in the forest? And there's no real answer. If you grow the trees together, they kind of fit together as they grow. I kind of prefer to develop them together in a forest rather than separately, because separately the trees aren't interacting with each other. You know, you don't get one tree growing a long branch here and the tree below it reacts by growing a branch somewhere else, or, you know, the trees grow according to the trees beside them. So, you know, if this tree's shading out this tree, it doesn't grow as much. And so if you have them as a forest, they all interact with each other. And I think in the end, you get a very natural looking forest. If you grow them separately in pots, yeah, you get the shape really nice. And then when you combine them in the forest, it may work quite nicely, or it may look artificial. It might look like a bunch of Christmas trees planted together. So I don't know. There's benefits to both methods. Here's a look at the forest now from the front. It's looking much more refined. It's still got a long way to go, but you can see all the individual tree trunks down below. You can see the moss terrain. Just up top, it's a big, you can't see any distinction between the main tree and the surrounding ones. There's no separation at all. They're just kind of all grown into each other. In fact, the whole canopy is like that. It's just one big massive green canopy with no separation. So that's what I'm working on, you know, separating each tree, pruning all those branches to keep them as separate trees rather than this look, which is like a hedge. So I'll keep going. The seedlings at the back of the planting are growing really well. I had this side facing the sun, so yeah, they're doing really well. They're creating another kind of wall at this very back edge of the forest. So yeah, I'm really happy. The moss is a little brown here because it gets that full afternoon sun on it, but I'm sure it'll green up now that it's cooling off and getting towards fall and it's raining more. The forest doesn't look all that different yet, but when I look around at all the clippings I've got here, I think, wow, I've sure taken a lot of foliage off. But yeah, I don't know, the forest still looks like a bit bushy up top, so I've still got a long way to go. I'd say maybe I'm halfway, I don't know. But you can see it's really opening up the landscape in the forest. There's a lot more light in there now. You can see all the individual tree trunks. It's looking much better. Here's a look at the progress so far. And this might be it for today. My feet are getting really cold. It's quite cool out today. So I'm starting to get a bit of separation between the surrounding trees and the central cathedral style tree. So yeah, just starting to get a bit of separation. This tree will need pruning also to get it defluffed. It's all fluffy looking right now. Yeah, so I've got to work my way around the back here still. Work on the main tree. So a lot of work to go. And you can see all the cuttings down here that I've done a lot already. But I got to warm my feet up, get a bite to eat. And so I think that'll be it for today. That's it for part 1 of pruning up the Avatar Grove. I'll be doing part 2 either tomorrow or the next day. And I'll finish up all the pruning and get it looking just right. A lot of people wonder and they ask me, what did I do in life before I started doing the Bonsai Zone full-time? And I'll answer that question today. For most of my life, I've been what's called a product designer. And I've designed everything from locomotives to military vehicles. And I slowly transitioned from a product designer to an illustrator. And then I started my own company where I did computer-aided renderings, design work, concept work for all kinds of stuff. Big shows, theater sets, all kinds of really cool jobs. And I did that for 10 years, freelance on my own. And then I kind of slowly transitioned into making bonsai videos, and now I do that full time. When I was in between jobs, I would practice my rendering and animation on doing kind of space-related things. It was sort of the ultimate test for materials, reflectivity, and I was trying to get the Apollo 11 vehicles, space vehicles, to look realistic. I don't know if I ever fully achieved that goal, but I think I came close. So I put together a clip for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. I put it together last year, and I'll show you that clip at the end of this video. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.